Hi, I am here with Laurie Agnew, who is an amazing musician, and also Paolo Fuschi, who is also an amazing musician and songwriter. We're going to have a good old jam, which is just improvised music off the top of our heads. There's nothing planned. First, we're going to have a little chat. So while we're on the subject of jamming, do you think, because there's obviously some kind of connection when two people are playing or three people are playing with each other, do either of you believe there's some kind of form of maybe a spiritual connection there, or do you think it's just down to repetition and kind of experience?
Do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, well, the connection between spirituality and that kind of experience and music just goes way back, you know, I think that's always been part of music's function, is to kind of tap into that thing that we can't really necessarily always explain or communicate with words. You can do more effectively, or kind of on a deeper level, with music, or just art generally, you know, speaks to us on a level that we don't necessarily kind of understand up here, but we get in here. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's undoubtedly a kind of a spiritual experience. Yeah,
I'd say definitely yes. I mean, it's funny that you're just you brought up is it a spiritual thing, or is the result of repetition? I'd say in order to commit to that repetition, you need to believe in it. It makes sense. So in the case of us, like me and Laurie playing together, I think, the spiritual side of it, I think, kicks in a form or another, because there's a human connection. There's a high level of trust, which is strictly related to friendship and believe in each other. And for me, spirituality could be many things, but I consider myself a spiritual person. I don't know how much religious I can be, but I kind of have that element inside me, which I find happening when I find a certain kind of connection with somebody. And in the case of Laurie, when we play together, or we talk, if we talk about music or anything else, or we play something new or old, I find always there's a sort of search for connection. And it's something that happens because, faith on each other is like, and I find that being just literally kind of, spiritual for me. It's sort of like, as I said, it's a kind of faith thing. I know that we can share something at a certain point. And going back to what I was saying right at the beginning, so it happens through repetition. The repetition in music certainly leads to a certain level of depth, right?
It strengthens, doesn't it?
Yeah,
That
exactly.
connection you're trying to form with a person, and then with a listener.
So it's almost like digging a hole, you're just getting closer to that gold in a way.
Yeah. And, for the kind of music I play, and the kind of music you play, and the kind of music we play together, every repetition is an opportunity, So if we're playing, I don't know, a 12-bar blues, which is the same 12 bars over and over again, the way I see it is that every single chorus, whatever you call it, 12 bars, is an opportunity to explore something. So it's not like, here is a guitar solo or whatever. It's just get those 12 bars that, fortunately, they repeat themselves over and over again for as long as you want, as an individual and as a group. And that is where the magic thing happens, So, and that doesn't happen with everybody, you see what I mean? For us, it happens because I believe in the 12 bars as much, and Laurie does, and Justin does, and Bo does. You know what I mean? We all believe in the fact that it's worth repeating those 12 bars for a good 12 minutes if it requires, because we're pulling something out.
So would you see it as like, it's almost like because I've kind of experienced where it's almost like a telepathy, isn't it? You know exactly where that person's going to go. Like there's definitely almost like an unexplainable thing going on there, isn't there? And do you think it's an opening to kind of a spiritual realm or kind of maybe potentially a different dimension when you're in that space, do you think?
Some people can say that. I don't know, like I just feel like, that spirituality for me, it is a synonymous of humanity. I don't separate the two things. So if we're in the same room at the same time, doing the same thing, deliberately deciding that we're gonna do it, that to me is itself a spiritual experience. The fact that I write a song and I bring it into the room and I'll introduce it to Laurie and Justin, for instance, as we did a couple of hours ago. For me, I don't want to sound like, that is a magic thing.
Yeah.
That to me is like, if I die after we jammed the song we just jammed, I'll die happy. And I truly mean it. Like there's a very strong energy for me that happens in the moment that I introduce a new song, for instance, to the guys embrace it, and we start serving the song all together. And I don't know if it's telepathy or, but there's sort of like this common will of making the song happening. That to me, that never, like, doesn't happen with everybody.
No.
You know what I mean? And when it happens with a certain group of people, there's something that goes beyond the success of the results. It's something like you totally feel that you're doing this thing together exactly with the same kind of commitment, which is not required. It's not that, if we never play this song that we jammed ever, nobody's gonna die. But in that particular moment, it becomes crucial to all of us. And that to me is, I don't know how to explain that. Do you see what I mean?
I wonder if it's like a sense of, because I guess when you open yourself up to that, you become very vulnerable, don't you? So like you said before, it's like a trust thing of like, I'm going to open myself up to be so vulnerable. I'm going to let myself out, because we express ourselves so much through our instruments, don't we? And it's similar to like the flow state. Well, what I would call the flow state is when you see someone on the stage and they just almost leave their body, or they're in some kind of their own world in that moment. And like, I think, and maybe that's what it's down to, that vulnerability of being like, I'm going to open myself up to these people in this room, and we're going to share something so special and magical, as you say, because it is. And that's why I love it so much, jamming with people, because it's different with everyone, isn't it? Like you throw someone else into it. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it's just even more magic, and it's amazing. You want to add anything to that, Laurie?
Yeah, I was just thinking about like, because I think you used the word telepathy and stuff, and then I was thinking about the same thing about when we were writing before a few hours ago, and I don't know what the kind of the end point of this train of thought is, but there's one thing that I started thinking about was there are rules that you learn over time through doing this for a long time. It's like, be it, when you play a kind of certain hook, it's like, well, the rule there when you kind of do that is, okay, then we go here or we do this. And I don't think that takes away necessarily. I think the opposite. I think it adds to it. The more you kind of learn the rules of the game that we're playing, the more meaningful, the more fun it can be as well. And the more you can kind of stretch the rules and kind of like bend them a little bit. And that goes for like, playing. But also in terms of writing as well, it's like you kind of go, okay, when you play this particular thing, there's a rule here of like, this is what kind of works.
Yeah.
I'd say it's more that than any kind of telepathy. And this comes from the repetition thing. This comes from doing it a lot, spending hundreds of hours learning the rules of this and then learning the rules of this.
Yeah.
And I think any kind of real spiritual discipline comes from that as well, of the discipline of kind of learning, what it is, what are the rules of this thing, and then kind of, how to explore that.
Totally. I would like to add to that ultimately we do music for pleasure. You see what I mean? Just we all kind of trying to achieve a higher level of pleasure through the medium of music. And that to me is like in a situation where we are playing as a group, and in my project, humbly, I'm the leader of the group. I'm the leader of the project, right? So 9 times out of 10, I will be the one that will dictate the direction of the song. Not like a dictator, you know what I mean? Not like in a sort of imposing way. It's just, I've got a vision in mind, and I know what I want to get. Now, the magical, spiritual thing for me happens when I present the idea to my band members, and they go with it. They don't dispute the vision. Ultimately, their goal is to meet me and help me to reach the vision. So, and here is when trust comes in, when, like good spirit comes in, when ego, you put it aside and say, we're going to make this thing happening. You know what I mean? And we're going to help Paolo, in my case, to make it happen. So this sort of mutual desire for each other pleasure sounds like something else, but I guess,
But it is an intimate space though, isn't it?
Right,
It's a very intimate space.
Exactly. And like ultimately, the fact that so we're going to find a way to make it happen, hence creating this sort of positive energy that comes, the satisfaction that comes from, wow, there was a vision and now it's happening in the room right there.
Well, so you watched that Get Back movie, the
Yeah.
Beatles one. That's one of the things that really struck me about watching that.
Yeah.
It was like how much they were all willing to help each other, like, and facilitate
100%.
each other's vision, even if the vision was just pricking around for 2 hours, like, just having a laugh.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's the vision right now, so we're going to help facilitate that. Or, writing something incredible like Get Back and kind of going, okay, yeah, well, we're gonna write that now, and there's a vision, someone's got a vision, and how to help facilitate.
This is, and in our case, this happened in the rehearsal room, on the stage, and off the stage as well. We will spend hours talking about how good the gig was or how bad the gig was and why, or things that we have to adjust, or ideas, and stuff. So for me, how long have we been playing together now? We've been playing together for about 10 years.
Probably about that.
And it's always been like that between us. Let's make things happening. And the other thing I would say, which is strongly related to the spiritual side of it, is I often talk about it. I just literally talk a lot about this. The mission behind the music. Why are you playing? What is it that you're looking for? You're on a stage. What are you doing on the stage? Why? What's the point? Because ultimately, what I believe, and some people can disagree with me, but if you've got nothing to say, just don't do anything. And that comes from a creator point of view, but also, from a music lover point of view, a listener point of view, somebody that loves art. If I go to watch somebody, I just want to feel what I'm hearing. It's not a matter of performance and how good your chops are and shredding or all this kind of bullshit. Can we swear on this podcast?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I already said pricking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch this.
I love it.
Right, okay. The gauntlet's been thrown down.
I think I might cut that out, actually. That might be too much.
But that's it. Like, just the mission behind the music. And that's something that I feel I can share with my band members, which I I use the words band members, but more often than not, I use the word collaborators because it feels more appropriate, for what I do.
It's teamwork, isn't it?
100%.
But I think learning to be led and then learning to lead, but are two equally kind of like, and actually depending on, now with any instrument, it's kind of like, helping someone realize what they're trying to do and helping, like, so you were talking before about like it's not being a dictatorship, but it's like certainly the fact that you lead your project live and in every other sense helps, because we kind of go, okay, well, he's leading it and we've just got to follow that. And that's our job to kind of like, kind of back you up and help you kind of achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And then sometimes kind of going, actually, I'm going to lead this bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take the reins for a minute and kind of go, okay, well, no, we're going to go over here.
Yeah, I think it's so important to let other people in, isn't it? Like, because it's like, I don't think one singular person has all the answers in a way. So it's like, whether it comes down to a musician who's working with a producer, like we always need to work with someone else. I find that people that like do it all, they're still getting outside help because they're probably letting someone listen to that song. You know what I mean? Even down to that point, letting those other things in, I think is quite important. But going back to what you were saying, Paolo, in terms of like, don't go to don't play unless you've got a purpose of it. And I think it made me think about how many musicians use it as such an outlet for their, that like their struggle or whatever they're going through. And like I've always used music as a form of therapy. Like and I know when I'm low because I'll write like 4 or 5 ideas in that day. And when I'm happy, I'm not writing music, or writing ideas, I should say. And I think that's and that in itself has a purpose, doesn't it? When someone just goes out and just feels like, I need to let this out. Do both of you use that in that kind of in that way as well, like a kind of therapy? Would you say?
Well, it does. It creates it like it's not even like a esoteric kind of out there hippie idea. It actually does on a biochemical level, like factually, it creates endorphins. I think I was listening to this thing the other day where they were saying there's connections from your brain going down into kind of like actual nerve endings throughout your like whole body that only really get properly kind of accessed or triggered when listening to music. So it's just on a very physical sense. It does, kind of, in the West, and it helps kind of prevent dementia and all these things. And there's people that have forgotten their fucking name, but they can remember this music will kind of like open a door, open an access to a memory that in a brain that's otherwise pretty defunct, but it can still like access that, and that's incredible.
That stuff's powerful. Amazing, yeah. When you see that,
it's real.
You just put a piano in front of them, and they just start playing this piece perfectly.
Yeah, well, no, there'll be the connection, and that's just listening to music or whatever, like, or kind of, and but the actual ability to kind of play and create that as well.
I think that's why I've always seen it as like a different dimension almost, because I feel like it's such a like when I've had that kind of. We'll talk about it a bit, like the flow state, and when again when you see the musician who's just in their own world kind of thing. Whenever I've been there, I've actually had moments where I've been playing that, and I'll kind of come around, and I'm like, fuck, I'm here, like I was somewhere else almost. That feeling, and that's why I feel like it's almost like a completely different dimension, and that's why you get people maybe who can get an instrument in front and start playing it. They don't even know their own name, but they know it. And they're getting that connection almost. Like, how would you describe that flow state? How would you would you see it as that kind of thing, maybe entering a different place?
I think it's a focus thing. I think actually if you can, and which comes back to that discipline thing, I think if you practice being focused and focus purely on the present moment, which is a very quite a spiritual thing, but it also applies to this. If actually you can just be here and now, not worry about what happened a few bars ago, good or bad. Sometimes like your biggest mistake can happen actually if you've just really landed like your most fucking chopsy fill, and you go, I am amazing, and then suddenly you're thinking about like 4 bars ago, and then suddenly something happens because you've not been kind of focused or present, or you've kind of like lost the connection of the direction you're with the band or whatever, so it's about just being in the moment, and that again requires discipline of kind of going, all right, I'm going to take this, taking it seriously. I think as a connection is always a thing that what you were talking about before as well, behind like our pursuit of the message or the meaning behind a song or the purpose of the song. It's actually, that's a thing that we both take quite seriously. which not necessarily everyone does. I think any good musician does, because that's probably the thing that makes them good, is actually they take that part of it seriously. Even if the song is a joke song, it's still like, but it's the execution of it is kind of taken seriously. But yeah, the flow state thing, that out of body kind of experience, whatever, I think comes from being just very focused and on the thing that you're doing.
My flow experience is coming from, has always come from, I don't know, adrenaline, you know, but also a sort of inner search for the authenticity of my sentiments while I'm playing or I'm writing and stuff. As I said, it's not how good you are on the instrument, it's just how much you believe and how much you can believe about what you're doing. You know, like when I feel I'm playing, like when I stop thinking, or I don't know how to describe it. When I feel like I'm on a flow, you know, it's, which physically I can describe it. I close my eyes, I literally do. I don't have to look at the guitar anymore. It's just part of me, and everything is just like, it's just there. That doesn't come from, I think, you know, obviously a good amount of practicing, you know, just practicing your chops, you know, how many hours you spend in your life and still doing stuff. But eventually, once you've been practicing, the next thing is that something happened. And the only thing I can say to you is like the music kind of match exactly the way you feel at that particular time. And sometimes that's something that can happen spontaneously. Or sometimes, and I do that sometimes, I try to lead the music where I need it to go. Because again, for me, the research of authenticity in what I'm doing, it's the main thing for me. Like that is the thing, more than anything else. I have to be real, 100% all the time, through and through. So if the music is not matching whatever it is that I'm about to play, what I'll do is I'll think of things that will make me reach the level of emotion. And then I say, here's a note for you. And here's another one and another one. So now I'm up there, connected with the way I feel, and the flow carries on. So as soon as I start feeling the drop, that's what I do. And that happens inside me. Sometimes, you know, I have to shout it. Sometimes I ask the band, you know, come on, dudes, you know, just let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? Because ultimately, I don't know. It's like, how long do we, like, since, you know, roughly you play 2 hours of music per show, right? And after that, what you do is like you get off stage, you pack up, and you drive back home. So for me, like those 2 hours, that is so important to me that I would say that is my mass right there. I'm going to church, 100%. 2 hours, we play together. And that, in that sense, I can be a bit of a bully. In the sense, like, if you play with me, that's where we have to go all together. And the guys that I play with, I don't even have to explain that. I also feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, I also feel, and that's something that makes me fly, you know, that within the music we make together, and we never spoke about it, but I feel it. They all find their way, their thing to reflect on and to get out while we're playing together. And I don't know like what it is, and I don't want to know because it's a very personal, spiritual kind of thing, but it kind of works. So the music for me, and that's another thing, like, and that's why I'm very happy with my music at the moment, because I know that means something not only to me, but to my friends as well, that I get to play with. So in that sense, yes, it is a spiritual experience, 150%. That's why I'm saying to you, if I die tomorrow, I don't give a shit. But I kind of do. But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
just like, yeah.
No, I love that. So it's very much like finding your center. It's like you're in like almost in like the most peaceful area when you.
But
when,
I don't know how much peaceful. It's just like, because I don't know how much peace I've got inside me. I don't know about that. I can tell you though, it's more about like being face to face with yourself. And that for me, it's only music that allows me to do that. I don't know, something happens there. Like I feel totally free and real and honest. There's no boundaries, there's no cultural obligations, there's no limits, there's no restrictions. It's just an opportunity to say, I want to use pink and yellow and orange and purple and whatever.
I think that's. I personally think it's the best feeling in the world when you get that feeling, because it's just.
It's a journey though, isn't it? Because before you reach this kind of spiritual stage, you have to find first and foremost a certain kind of self-acceptance, which I would say, for me, like, until I didn't get to that point, and I'm 45 years old, but until I didn't totally accept me and myself for the good and bad, musically and humanly speaking, just like, I couldn't even talk to you today about this thing, you know what I mean? Because it took me a while to find my own way, and not feeling not good enough all the time. And then eventually, I just,
because if you're playing from a place where you're questioning everything you're doing,
exactly.
you're not present.
You're
analysing every decision
exactly.
you make.
100%.
And that means you're in the past.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Exactly.
So by kind of actually having that confidence in your own, in whatever, and seeing that there's value in whatever it is that you have to say at that time. And that comes from the people you play with as well, or digging what you do. Then it kind of, but the confidence to kind of go, this is what I'm saying. And I'm going to kind of say it with conviction. And not kind of be all like, oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
Going back to jamming, have either of you ever jammed with someone for the first time and it's just been perfect?
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so, because that's what I'm wondering, because we talk about the repetition thing, and like it's almost down to the kind of experience of learning people and everything. And I'm just thinking, like, because I feel like I've experienced that when I've just jammed with someone for the first time, and it's just like you automatically enter that, whatever it is, kind of connection, when you know exactly where they're going to go or what they're going to do.
It certainly happened to me. I'm fortunate enough in several occasions. But it's like love, and or relationships. Like the magic that happened in that 5 minutes. Like, shit, wow, man. It's like we're grooving. Now I don't even know you. Like, I'll tell you that it won't last. If you carry on playing with these people that you kind of meet for the first time, just sooner or later, you will get to a stage where something, that magic, the initial magic, start to drop down a little bit. Now, when I was younger, I used to be much more volatile and think, well, you know what, I was wrong. See you later. Or just I kind of find my way to depart, from the situation and stuff. These days, what I find is, and we got back to what I was saying before, is that A, you have to put some work in it. B, you need to share the vision that you've got with other people to the point that they love it, they trust you, and they want to get there, right? And I'm talking, that happened to me as well. I know that I've impressed somebody in the past, and then the next minute I'm not good enough anymore. But this person kind of trusts me and cared about playing together, give me context, tell me, to do something. I went back home, work on it, and then just go back. So it's something that certainly happens, but you have to feed it in the most kind of faithful way. And it goes back to me to the sort of human connection we have with those people, you know. Of course, the magic, of course, you know, oh, wow, this is made, this is great. Oh, you know, we're brothers, you know. But eventually, you know, relationships are based on also the fact that you need to put work on it. And you need to trust each other and love each other so much to say, you know what, it's worth it if we sit down and talk about this.
And communicate.
Communicate.
Skillfully.
Exactly.
Yeah. And kindly.
And leaving egos and fear aside, you know, and say, let's figure it out.
It's so true, because I feel like you almost have to come to blows with people that you work with, don't you? Because it does make you stronger, because if you can get through that, it just makes that relationship so much stronger, and that connection stronger as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you learn to communicate better over time. You learn either, you know, again, coming back to, like, you know, the rules of the game that you're playing, which is where music, because all theory is just the language of music. It's the language that musicians use to communicate a certain musical concept that they're trying to do. But then if you're playing with people who don't necessarily know their theory, but they've got a concept in mind, you've got to find another way of communicating it. And we were talking about this when working with Alina, for example. I found that really refreshing. I'm not saying that she doesn't know a theory, she knows her shit, but she will communicate, and you do this as well, actually, communicate kind of conceptually. She'll say, this is the concept of the song, or this is the vibe, or this is the meaning, or this is the journey that we want to go through. And I quite like working that way as well, because it sort of makes you kind of think outside of the technical and more in a kind of like I don't know, just puts me in a bit more of a creative space as well.
And I suppose as well, it's kind of like you're going to interpret that probably slightly in a different aspect, or see it from a different view to how they're seeing it as well, which probably makes it even more interesting, because you're all seeing this, whatever it might be, like, you know, I want it to feel like an ocean. You're all seeing that ocean from different...
I was thinking the same example, but actually, again, back to the rules of the thing, an ocean is then, it's like, that's what an ocean is. There's only one way I can do an ocean, and it's with that. And it's like, okay, so even though you're using a concept as vast as the ocean, it's like, okay, but musically, I actually know what the rule is there.
Yeah, and you can be like, I want slightly bigger waves. Yeah, you know.
I'll use two. The ability to be able to kind of communicate an idea, realize someone's idea as well, like, and kind of calmly kind of go, all right, let's try that, let's try this, and kind of knowing that actually, you know, we're going to land there, we're going to get it, you know, at some point, and all these kind of different roads that we might take, they're all kind of leading to the same end point. It's just which way we kind of want to go.
They're all leading to rhyme.
All roads, man. Yeah.
I'm reflecting, you know, on what you guys are saying, and the initial question about you ever jam with somebody and it was like magical straight away. Hearing what you're saying, I kind of confirm what I believe, which is you will find musically sooner or later, especially if you love playing with somebody and you kind of have this sort of energy and synergy in place, sooner or later, it won't be just an improvisation thing anymore. You know what I mean? Like, it will be just like the jam, if this thing evolves, will turn into tunes, will turn into a project. And this is when you have to start learning things. It's not just, oh, it's great jamming. Jamming is beautiful, but, you know, you reach a stage where you will have to learn a part, a structure, whatever that is, or to the point that sometimes you have to go back home, doing your homework, and just going back and say, okay, I think I got this now. And that's why I find it very similar, you know, to, as I say, you know, friendships, relationships in general. You know, the fact that, okay, now that I know this about you, I'll go home and think about it. And then if I've got a problem, I'll let you know and we'll talk about this. But the evolution of a jam, this is what excites me more than the actual magic, the initial magic. Because the initial magic, yeah, it can happen, it's beautiful. But like, what is the evolution of it, if there's going to be any, and how you're going to fit it? You know, that's what makes me like, when I play with somebody, it makes me like, shit, you know, maybe you can work together.
I guess it goes back to the purpose, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
What's the purpose of it?
Yeah.
You know. Are you two believers or open to the idea that music or frequencies can heal?
Definitely, yes. I don't know on what kind of level you're talking about healing, because I'm a spiritual person, but I profoundly believe in science as well. and I don't dispute science, but that's a different subject altogether, if you see what I mean. So music can certainly heal and helps you to heal or feeling less pain, maybe psychologically. I don't know, physically, I don't know about that. You know, if you have like a physical problem, if you can heal through music or feel relief through music. But certainly mentally, I would say definitely yes. I'm a little bit like you, just the amount of songs I can write when I don't know, heartbroken, or you know what I mean? It's like I sit down and like for a month, I start writing lyrics or songs and melodies and stuff. So certainly there's a sort of a healing process that happens through music, or even just writing lyrics in general, you know, kind of summing up in few words a certain feeling you have inside and just make it like, you know, just with a little bit of, with the use of poetry, you know what I mean? Try to encapsulate, crystallize a certain moment, a certain experience that happened to you that resonates with you, you know, and makes you feel one way or another one. I find such a healing power into trying to sum it up in a couple of verses that rhyme with each other. Wow, this totally makes sense. You know what I experienced. You know, and that immediately makes me feel better. You know, feel everything is clear in my mind. You know.
And do you write those lyrics without music sometimes? Can you just write? Is it predominantly that, or do you sometimes do a mix of having the song with all the tune and then you write over the tune?
I'm not one of those people that wake up with a melody in mind. I'm not one of those guys like, sounds good. I'm more like I wake up with some words in mind, or like I'm on the bus. I look at the window of the bus and I see like a certain kind of situation. Like the other day, for instance, I was driving and in Leeds, and I looked, which is
furious.
Yeah, actually, I was, because I was a little bit lost.
Because it's infuriating.
Because Leeds is a great city, but driving around it, fucking hell,
it's a nightmare.
My God. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just walking by, and like there's like on the pavement, there's like two elderly ladies. They were like, they must be like 70, 75. They were twins, and they were all both dressed with the same clothes.
Amazing.
Same hairstyle, exactly the same. Two identical 70 years old people walking next to each other. Wow, cool. And that was like...
Did you think that you'd glitched?
Yeah.
I'm lagging.
And then it was like, dude, twins. And that could be a tune right there,
Yeah.
But you were asking about frequencies.
Yes.
What do you think?
I think there's definitely power there, because everything has a resonant frequency. So if we went with an oscillator in this room, and everything would start to vibrate depending on its density. And I don't think it's any different from our cells, essentially, because we are just a bunch of cells into an organism, essentially. And there's a lot of this kind of, they're knowing that cells, even a singular cell organism, will react differently depending on what environment you put into it. So if we're made up of all of those, then it means everything's listening, essentially. With the idea that resonant frequencies can do something. I mean, it's how they remove kidney stones, isn't it? They do really low they find the frequency of the kidney stones, blast that sound, and they break down, and there's no damage to anything else.
I was thinking while you were saying about the cells, everything listen and stuff, and I'm not an expert, but I love that concept. Is it quantistic science, basically, and your listeners might disagree. If they did, please leave a comment. But it's that concept of that, because we're all cells and atoms, and that we can connect with somebody else elsewhere, even when we're well far apart, through just simply the kind of desire of connecting with this person. And I don't know if that is true or not, or if that is exactly right the way I'm explaining it and stuff. But that's another thing I kind of talking about spirituality. When I play, I truly long for that. I'm truly, like, sometimes I think of somebody and I think I'm playing this song and say, I hope, this song will reach this person right now, or even a solo. I'm going to throw it out there, and maybe somehow, somewhere that will help that person thinking of me. And that kind of, in that sense, for me, that is healing, maybe because I don't speak to that person anymore and stuff, but the fact that I can reach her or him, whoever, in that way, it's like, shit, that's already enough to make me feel a little bit better. Maybe just sort of something that I just created to feel like a better person or whatever. But certainly, it is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
When you were saying that before as well, anyway, about that, that's how you access that real and emotional part of you for the purposes of creating a solo or playing a solo that is real and actually has meaning.
Yeah.
You have to access that part of you anyway, and I can see that as being a way of doing that, of picturing a person that you're trying to communicate to and send out like a message. Yeah, see that as being a really effective way of doing that.
That's beautiful. I think it's interesting with because it's almost like, when you think about someone, then they end up calling you. That happens to me all the time.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And it's like, I do think there is because we're not separated, there is atoms or quartz, isn't it? I think the scientific thing of it, there's literally, loads of little dots between me and you.
Exactly.
We're all connected.
That's a beautiful concept, man, right there. I love that.
Back to the frequencies thing, like certainly on an emotional level, like that's what a lot of gong therapy and that kind of stuff is in, like sound immersion and that kind of stuff is kind of to, and a lot of the rumba, like the Cuban, the folkloric stuff that I'm kind of into, the purpose of that music is to put a person into a kind of transcendental state where they are what's called mounted by a spirit, good or bad. And
with the repetition.
Yeah, and the reason why, you can be in this tiny room this size, with 20 people, a few drums, everyone's smoking cigars, so there's smoke everywhere. Everyone's like just throwing rum back, and it creates this mad thing. But the reason that the music is so kind of hypnotic and kind of like weird, and like kind of quite weird, quite angular, quite like very syncopated, and you end up hearing stuff. You end up hearing notes within it that kind of aren't necessarily even being played by anyone, but you kind of, you just kind of hear these things, and the whole purpose of it is to put someone in a state of being mounted by this spirit, so that they can kind of like perform whatever that they need to perform, be it cleansing the space, be it some kind of religious ceremony, and they want to see which Orisha or deity, whatever, is going to kind of bless this thing and all of that. And I think,
is this the time when you almost got knocked off a balcony?
Yeah. That was the first time. That was when we first arrived. Yeah, like I think it was just someone's like flat warming. I think like basically, and they were cleansing this, the best flat warming party ever. Basically, it's like a rumba party. But there was also the purpose of us to kind of clear this space. We're kind of all there, like looking in and stuff. And going, this is cool. And this girl, comes flying out, spinning, just going, wow, 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 and like knocks into me, and I'm going, look, and it's Havana, so it's all, not exactly kind of. The upkeep hasn't happened for a little while, right? So there's this tiny banister rail that's there, and then we're a few stories up, and I'm like, oh my god! Luckily, I'm a big boy, so she didn't really kind of like affect me as okay. Well, for a minute I shat myself. Christian, he was here. He was going, yeah, I have my hand out. I don't know what I was going to do if you went.
Yeah,
but yeah. But I've seen a bunch of that.
Wow.
The subject of your podcast is spirituality and music. Yeah, I'm telling you. I haven't got a religion that I kind of relate to, or I think I was brought up Christian, so I got all this kind of iconic imaginary in my head, about Jesus and the saints and the angels and Holy Mary and whatever. So I can totally relate to that. But for me, it's actually music that has become a form of religion for me, like, with rules, and acts of faith. That is music for me. Like, I totally believe in music, 100%. And that's probably why I'm going to carry on doing it, at least until, whatever. Because, I always say that let's not forget that we are fucking fortunate here. You know, the fact that Laurie sits behind his drum kit and I have this lovely guitar I can play whenever I want. This is something I know people that would love to do that. I met them in my life and they didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity and I like stick to it with all my heart and soul. But I know just I'm being fortunate, you know what I mean? So that is another thing that for me, maybe it comes from my Christian background or whatever, that I believe in. It's like, that's my way to give something back, you know? And it's no ego. And it's not like, I don't do it just because, oh, I want people to shake my hands. Oh, how great you are and stuff like that. It's more like, I know that for 5 minutes, if I look around and I'm doing my job, because it is a job as well. And I look around and I see smiles on people just, I don't know, kissing each other. Like amount of times that happened to us, you know, you look in the room, you were playing a slow number and they're like a couple, they're kissing each other, holding each other. I like, sometimes I play and I see people grabbing each other's hand. It's like, it's fucking amazing. So that's what I believe in. Just right there.
And I think that's part of it as well, of being so grateful for those opportunities as well. Isn't it? It's like, that's kind of, I think once people start to switch their mentality, go, fuck, I'm really lucky to have all this shit, which, you know, progresses you even more because you start to appreciate it more, and people read that from your body as well, don't they? And it's like, it becomes across going, man, this guy just really, he's just doing his thing, he appreciates it. But yeah, I think we should probably try to do some music. I think been a good chat. thanks so much for being on. It's been lovely to talk to you both and playing with you both as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.